Tommy, good evening. Thanks very much for your time. So, is it your organization's view that the Deputy Chief Justice Zondo is treating former President Jacob Zuma with kid gloves?
Well, essentially, it's a view that we share as a collective, of different organizations within the working group. I think at the backdrop of looking at different commissions of inquiry that we've seen over the years and just how they've moved and almost kind of nullified the voices of civil society into it. So our feeling is that we have a much more bigger role to play, starting with this this Commission of State Inquiry, to make sure that at least our voices are heard and contribute to the process. So it's our feeling to simply say it sets a bad precedence, really, a bad precedence if Zuma is going
to... What exactly about last week's proceedings sort of gave you that particular impression that here was a person who was being treated with kid gloves?
I mean, the number of objections that were raised to simply say, but this almost sounds like an interrogation, and putting a halt to the process, or simply saying, I feel I'm being singled out as the main, as he would call it, Dumsholo, to say I'm the state capture king himself. So as a result, almost kind of projecting himself as a victim, and as a result, therefore, then simply, tilting the ways of the commission towards kind of favoring him to some degree to try and protect him, given that he's projecting himself so much as a victim. So that in itself,
raising objections and doing so perhaps far too frequently is one thing, but to even suggest that the commission sort of allowed them to do that or gave them the leeway or didn't treat them, him the way they treated other witnesses is quite another.
It's quite another, yes. But for us, the biggest thing for us is to simply say we cannot have a situation where proceedings are more or less kind of bullied in that fashion, whether playing the legal route with regards to sort of the lawyer's interjection at any given time, and also just how Zuma kind of takes us on the tirade to kind of go back to projecting himself in a particular light that there's always been these things.
Came up with,
it's a strategy that he uses, yes.
That he tried to use, but as far as possible, I thought the chairperson sort of tried to find some middle ground, in other words, ensuring that he continues, to participate until, of course, it got to that point when they couldn't.
We're not privy to the compromise conversations that happened behind the scenes or whatever the case might be. But I'm saying, for the commission's credibility, perceptions matter. And if you're perceived to be a commission that simply, kind of yields down to a particular power, it simply projects you as being weakened. So for us, it's important that the commission maintains its integrity and actually ensures that its posture is not seen to be favoring one side or not the other. Like I'm saying, perceptions are very real in society, and as a result, for the commission to maintain its integrity, it need not to be seen to actually be yielding towards a particular or tilting towards a particular side, or being a lot more softer towards the former president at this given time.
Well, whether it was the people the former president was addressing outside court, or the trolls, many of whom you'll find on social media platforms, whether it's Twitter or Facebook, they too think or seem to think that the commission was unfair to their guy.
Yeah, there's a political gallery that's happening right now, right? It's almost like there's two extreme sides. One that would think, well, goes with the narrative that, in fact, Msholozi is actually being, a victim, or our former president in this matter is actually being a victim, he's victimized. This state capture commission is about him. And for us, we've always maintained to simply say, well, he's been mentioned, and here's an opportunity for him to sit and clear, to set the record straight, to simply say, hold on, such and such was said about me, but the truth of the matter is, and give his own evidence, right? So we felt like this is a good enough space for him to be able to counter whatever accusations or mentions of his name that has been made there. But there's also this narrative that simply says, he's a victim of a political conspiracy that goes far back. So there's that political narrative that simply seeks to kind of perpetuate the stereotype that says he is a victim of circumstance. So as a result, we must he must be defended and all kinds of things. So I'm just saying there's a polarization of ideas in terms of how people think or view the commission itself as the work unfolds of the commission. But we must be very principled in saying the intention of the commission is to getting to the facts and putting to the fore the evidence that is needed. And for law enforcement agencies to actually go ahead and do something where anybody else could be fingered to have been, have done wrong. And that's our viewpoint. To simply say the side shows, playing the political victim and all sorts of things, it's not necessarily, that's not the space to do it. This commission is not necessarily about settling political scores, whether naming people spies or not. But this is a commission that says something happened. We're wanting to get the facts. You were implicated. Tell us your side of the story. Let's arrive at the facts, and then let's let the law take its course.
That's where we're going to leave it. Thanks very much, Tami. Tami Ngozi from the Right to Know campaign.